And we are live. Hello, everyone. This is the Ninja GC joining getting up for another podcast. This time for talking about holiday cheer and other shenanigans. Join me again is by random Skype order, Carlos.
Hello there. This is the Delegator, and I'm just here telling you the times have changed for this New York City Gator. Now it's the time of war against fellow pilots. We ride!
All right, and then next up, second.
Hi there, this is the second opinion, and from a critic first, and a fan second. Hi, how are ya? I don't know, maybe I'm feeling under-inspired today. I don't have any day lover with me. But, give me time to warm up. You know, I like the sound of my own voice.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, all good.
Also,
all
it's
good.
10:30, so it's 10:30, and we've all been working, so.
Say afraid.
All right, And then next up, Jenn.
I may be first, I may be last. I am last, but that doesn't matter. I may be the fastest dishwasher in the world, and I can't stand pineapples. Don't ask. Carbonate's hard, but I am first and always. Jenn. Good evening, Internet Nation.
Hello, Jen.
Hello.
All right. And I believe that takes us to our fearless leader.
Yep.
Fearless leader.
All right, so does anyone want to go first? We've been up to? Because it's almost been a month since recording. I've just been realizing that. Trying to collect the news, like what have we covered or not.
We've got things to talk about.
Right.
Oh.
Well,
How was everybody's Thanksgiving? Did we talk about this before?
Yeah, we did a podcast before Thanksgiving season kicked off, the last one.
Okay. And now here we are post Thanksgiving.
that is true. And I don't know, my family really likes Thanksgiving because it's totally Christmas without the trappings, and I don't know, I feel like I haven't completely left behind that part of me that's permanently 8 years old, so I gotta like Christmas a bit. Got those family traditions I'm always gonna remember waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go do with a big it's all dark and cold and alive and lighted and Christmas magical and goody. But yeah, Thanksgiving is pretty nice. Had to get there late because this is America and I scheduled my new immigrant wife day lover to work on Thanksgiving Day, but we caught the tail end of the meal and the rest of the night too, complete with the hour and a half of sing-alongs from the 3 college senior year of high school guys with many guitar lessons in their rearview mirror and plethora of songs they've learned in the meantime to sing along to. Lots of Sweet Caroline and Traveling Wilburys and really just about anything you can think of in that vein.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm exaggerating there, but yeah.
All good. I've been in a weird sort of void since. It's like, I don't know, been like drifting along from event to event, and in between Thanksgiving with the family, but then also like chauffeuring my mom around to help chauffeuring my mom to her appointments and everything, making sure, helping her with her appointments with her hand and everything, and making sure she doesn't try and do too much and hurt her other hand. So, in his ways, it's like, it's one of those moments where you feel like, hold on a minute, when mom's getting ready to do something, I'm like, wait, stop! I'm like, wait, stop, let me do it! And, let me do it. I'm like, I'm wondering if this is some sort of like weird payback for me being running around and her having to stop me from doing something. 9 times out of 10, you know what, make it a 9.5 out of 10. This probably is. Because I feel like karma's like that, you know?
Oh yeah.
Now
I missed how karma ties into that because I'm slow. Try one more time.
Now just ready for the beautiful multicolored void that is Christmas.
Here.
I like the food better at Christmas than Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I like
I
it.
think
I like it better than Thanksgiving.
I mean, I think when we get more into the sort of the semi-main topic where we talk about our holiday plans after what we've been up to, but yeah, I think my opinion on Christmas, I think Doug Walker sort of summarized it well. Like there is just sort of an atmosphere about Christmas, and I just really like that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, just that one concentrated joy time of year, like all the Christmas music after Thanksgiving, I'm glad to hear.
Yes.
Um,
Oh yeah, it is.
As long as it's not every remix of Last Christmas.
Yeah, that kind of needs to stop. I mean, the original is all we need. Let us not disrespect George Michael. May you rest in peace, good sir.
Last Christmas, you gave
I
me
gave
this
you my
song,
heart.
but the very next day, I threw it away. This year,
we
to
better
save
stop
my
because of
ear, I'll listen to something
yeah, we better stop for
better.
content ID issues.
My voice is not that accurate.
The version is all we need.
Yeah,
The version is all we need. We don't need anything else.
I normally would not joke, but like, yeah, I know content ID apparently is very sensitive now.
Fair enough. Okay,
Oh,
but
really?
yeah, if you've worked retail, and in a mainstream place, you've had to listen to every version of every remix of that, like
wait.
10 times
No.
a shift, and I mean, it
No, it
eventually
was
becomes
worse.
death by drone.
No, it's also no. Oh, well, you know what? I'll take that. Overhearing like, okay, you know what? There's only so many times I can hear Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" before I start, before I start going mad.
I mean, any song can be killed by repetition, but some songs, start to knife your ear slowly and painfully harder than others. As you drill in. You start to become quite a connoisseur of Christmas music, as a matter of fact, if you work retail. Like
Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
My bad, go ahead, sorry.
I mean, I was going to say, like, for example, I used to think I liked the lukewarmly received Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney after hearing it. I must have heard it about, like, more times than anybody listens to a single song willingly by now. 100 or so. I'm like, Wonderful Christmas Time comes out of the gate with a very strong mission statement, but quickly runs out of places to go and resorts to padding itself with repetition and belaboring the point and padding the point and etc. It's like, I don't know, I feel like it kind of repeats itself after that first, like, mood is right, spirits up, we're here tonight, that's enough, boom, bitch, Wonderful Christmas Time. Like,
pretty much.
That's pretty strong.
Then you have the little tiny bridge in the middle. That's it. Wonderful Christmas Time.
Yeah, I feel like the intro was his idea, and the rest was like, Christmas. Well, there are Christmas songs I still like, and like even after repetition, I will always be like, nah, there's something to love here.
Yeah, as you were talking about, like, I have to catch myself here because you were talking about, like, there's only certain remixes and versions of everything, and here I am griping about Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You," but at the same time, I think, oh my gosh, I'm so mad at myself. I think about, I have a certain number of versions of Little Drummer Boy, and each one is like a different experience, the same lyrics, but just a different, like, different musical thing. I have it's shameful how many versions of Little Drummer Boy that I have. I don't know why.
Yeah. Like, maybe it's not so mysterious that 12 Days of Christmas isn't even more hated than it is.
Okay, now that, how, okay, you know what? I could probably go the rest of my life by not hearing that song. Have you seen the movie Candy Cane Lane with Eddie Murphy in it?
Uh-uh.
You know what? I gotta recommend you guys watch it. It is really, really good. It's a take on. It's like they do a kind of take on the 12 Days of Christmas, and it's a really fun holiday movie. It's really fun. I watched it with my mom last night and a couple days ago, and we loved it. We absolutely loved it. Normally I'm like, Christmas movies, blech. but then I watched this one, I'm like, this is good. I can't believe it. I was applauding at the end of it, like, yeah. I'm adding this to my holiday
You just
list.
made that.
Yeah, I know, and I couldn't believe it. Normally I don't watch like the new stuff, but in this case, I was just sitting there, I'm like, fine, let's watch it. I don't have anything else better to do. So we watched it. I'm like, okay, this is really good. I'm adding this to my list.
Well,
And they
actually,
they do a take on the 12 Days of Christmas, and it's actually really, really clever. Really clever.
Okay. I mean, just so there's some synergy here, are we like, should we rein this back to like what we did on Thanksgiving, or do we want to segue
just
into
in
Christmas
general,
plans right now?
in general, sort of media things we've been up to.
Okay, so we're gonna save Christmas for the end.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember. Did I talk to you guys about Leo, or was that last podcast?
About what?
Leo.
I don't think.
Like the Adam Sandler lizard movie.
No, we haven't talked about that yet.
Okay, so let's talk about the movie that you guys should actually watch for Thanksgiving / Christmas instead of what Disney brought out. Leo. An Adam Sandler movie that turns out to be way better.
To put a little pin in that is going to be a news story we're going to talk about.
All right. That's fine.
No, not the Leo part, but yeah, we'll get to Disney later, so you can go on with.
All right, so let me just talk about Leo because I've actually watched the movie twice. Once on this,
really?
Yes. It's an awkward musical, but the fact that this movie has a lot more heart and soul than a lot of modern Disney movies. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well, just Wish, right?
No.
I want to see Wish. I want to see Wish. I need to see Wish.
Yeah, but for like Leo, it's like it takes a unique perspective of having like the talking animals companion, but instead of it being like a young spry animal, it's instead a 74-year-old lizard, a Gila actually.
Oh yeah, Gila monster.
Yeah, and also we have a turtle sidekick that goes by the name of Squirtle.
What?
I'm not even kidding.
Pokemon
They actually got that too.
Oh no, copyright police. Copyright police. Oh no.
And Squirtle is voiced by Bill Beer.
Bill Burr.
Yes.
Bill Burr, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, like and it's basically like a movie of like, okay, this the lizard Leo thinks that he basically finds out that like, oh, he only has 1 year left to live because Gilas live up to 75 years old. So it's basically like him trying to like escape from like his entrapment like in the school pets area in order to like live in the wild for like his last year on Earth. But then he breaks the taboo of animals speaking to humans, and then decides to put his 74 years of like being on this Earth and listening to all these humans like be taught all these lessons and such, and actually teach these kids on how not to be disruptive little devils, basically. And it's not just one type of problem. They go through a whole wide assortment of problems, including divorcee parents, including like helicopter parenting, kids who talk too much, and kids who are left back multiple times.
Now that's where I'm less sure because I don't know if I trust Adam Sandler to tell me about that.
Yeah, you would think like after like his last animated project being Eight Crazy Nights, like really?
Well, it was
No,
Hotel
that-
Oh, that's
Transylvania,
right.
No, you're forgetting Hotel Transylvania.
Well, Hotel
Oh, that
Transylvania, yeah, but no, but this is made under Happy Madison Productions. This is the
I
second
know,
oh
one.
but
god.
still, give Adam Sandler a bone, like for hand,
Yeah,
like Hotel
I'll
Transylvania
give him
versus
a bone for his Drac. Yes, his Drac is
compared to
fantastic.
like
The
to give him
Drac
credit
is
above Eight
hilarious.
Crazy Nights.
yeah.
Yes.
And hey, Hotel
I gotta,
Transylvania
you know what?
3
Eight
got a little bit
crazy
of
nights.
praise.
8 Crazy Nights. Then again, I give credit to 8 Crazy Nights. No one's ever made a movie of Hanukkah, and yet that stemmed out of a really funny. That's the crazy thing
It's
is that
Hanukkah
stemmed out
song.
of a purely Adam Sandler creation of the Hanukkah song. It came out of the lyric from the Hanukkah song, and there's kind of like there's no real songs of Hanukkah except I guess the traditional Jewish ones, but no quote mainstream one for Hanukkah until Sandler came along.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was a noble attempt, and if nothing else, the Hanukkah song is a good
Right.
creation.
All right.
True. Yes. True.
So-
There's like now three. I think there's like 3 different versions of it.
I don't know. I know he's done like live recordings and stuff. I'm sure he
Yeah.
mixes it up here and there.
That's how.
Mhm.
That's how. I think that all 3 of them have been. Yeah, I think all 3 of them have been live. All 3 of them have been live. Probably. I don't remember which is the one they play on the radio, version 1 or 2. I have no idea. But I remember the live one he did for number 3. Oh boy.
Put on that yarmulke. It's time for Hanukkah. Bitch. I've never celebrated Hanukkah a
So
day in my
much
life, and I like that
Hanukkah
song.
to celebrate Hanukkah. Hanukkah
So,
is the festival of lights. Instead of 1 day of presents, oh no, we get 8 crazy nights.
like, some people think that Ebenezer Scrooge is. Well, he's not. But guess who is? All 3
Three
Stooges.
Stooges. My favorite one is my favorite lyric is we may not get to kiss underneath the mistletoe, but we can do it all night with Deuce Bigelow. I'm Jewish. And Rob Schneider comes and says, I'm Jewish.
Oh, wow.
It's my favorite one.
I'm sorry. I saw 10 minutes of Deuce Bigelow's sequel, so I am like under contract to hate Deuce Bigelow.
Oh my god. What's the lyric when he's like at the end he's like, not too shabby.
Like he's talking about how people have like some mixed Jewish ancestry, how the people you can claim with that, and he's
Okay.
yeah, I think Harrison Ford's A Quarter, which I think the line was originally not half bad, but then he changed it to not too shabby.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, I think that's where he says
Oh.
not too shabby.
Okay. See, or there's also one like Tom Cruise, not a Jew, but I heard his agent is.
Yeah.
The dude from Shanana celebrates Hanukkah.
Yeah.
All right. So, aside from that, did you guys see the new Death Battle?
Which one? Rick and Morty versus the Doctor?
Nope.
Goku
versus Superman Part 3, yeah.
Matter of fact, I like skimmed that one. I was like, okay, just tell me the part where you start talking about how Superman is limitless. If that's even in there, we know how this is going to end. If you're still convinced that that's the valid interpretation. But I will say the speech they gave at the end, like, kind of won me over. Where I was like, I mean, I don't know, their Dragon Ball Z stuff. Right or wrong, put them on thin ice with me a lot.
Wait, what do you mean by their Dragon Ball Z stuff?
I felt like they, like, I don't know, having grown up with Dragon Ball Z, like when you realize, like by the time Majin Buu comes along, you're like, okay, there is like no redeeming factor for this as far as like, yeah, respecting how hard it was, how hard you said it was to get to this level or that level. The only consolation is that you've like, hyperbole how strong they are so many times past the point of destroying a planet. Oh, 100 times. A planet next to a super giant sun. I'm like, okay, so the only concept is like the Dragon Ball Z guys. At least we can say we're watching the show with the guys that would beat anybody, and that probably wasn't necessarily true because yes, Superman really does have some like eye-rollingly insane feats like eye roll, nosebleed, what have you, hemorrhage. But yeah, it seems like they want to like yeah. Um, I mean, I guess I can you have to apply some kind of logic to this stuff, so they want to like squint the hyperbole under a microscope, but like it seems like they I don't know so much of their rationale like seems to be wanting to like find angles to hold the Dragon Ball Z stuff to um, reasonable planes to yeah talk about the scaling or the to claim that there's some kind of an angle for that to be rational or like limited for there to be a conceivable scope on that when there just wasn't. So yeah, like Kirby versus Majin Buu, that got it. Like, I mean, besides the obvious, like, I mean, I was like not able to get past the thing of like, well, Kirby when he summons his star, he goes at light speed. So Kirby has light speed. Yeah, they just treated it like that. They just straight up said, yeah, okay, so Kirby is faster than Majin Buu. I'm like, okay, if he's on his star thing, you didn't say it like his reaction time is time where he's bopping around, and the fact that Majin Buu has instant transmission, which does have like applicability in that moving about in time and space and like more than just like you're driving a car and is faster than light because it gets you there in the time it takes you to decide to go there. Like yeah, it came off to me like they had it in for reigning in the Dragon Ball Z fandom, and I'm like, okay, well, not interested because I'm like I had enough of a hemorrhage trying to make my peace with where Dragon Ball Z was at without you guys trying to tell me just like how you want the logic to fall, how you want there to be more logic to fall in place than there is.
Yeah, that's the one thing I Death Battle is like I will tune in for occasionally the good like a interesting fight. Sounds good to me, but like I feel that I have the same issue with Death Battle that I do with like game theory and like film theory, and that I like their original stuff more was like a more serious, like a more genuine like versus sort of thing, or like in film theory or game theory is like a more like okay, we're going to explain something that the game never explained sort of thing. However, both of them have sort of evolved just to sort of be like game theory is more about conspiracy theories with games and actual like they're going more out of their way to sort of explain like to like pull something out of their butts than actual what this is what actually is probably it's about sort of thing. And so like them trying to explain like flat Earth is like like you're just this is definitely not what the game like subplot's about. And I guess the same thing with Death Battle. It's like they're getting to where they'll pick like some very random niche fact, which is like this is why X will win. Some obscure little once referenced thing, and like that's not really sporting or anything sort of thing.
I mean, I guess you could argue it's a for the sake of argument approach, just like cover everything, but I mean, there's like comic book fans, for example, have something they call Spider-Man versus Firelord, like this basically never repeated bit where Spider-Man took down a Thor-level character just by like going so deep into the adrenaline and the desperation that they like cut to like close-ups of Spider-Man just like winging punches desperately and yelling to himself about how he can't stop and such, and then they cut away to superheroes stopping him, and Firelord is unconscious, and they're like, "Well, Spider-Man, you got him," and yeah, that like never repeated since because that's just not how it works. It's like it was pure emotional storytelling, I guess, and that happens, but yeah, there's gonna be stuff like that. There's gonna be yeah, well, Sandman, okay, he can't actually be hurt because punching him just scatters him a little bit, and he has so many ways to hurt you that even the Hulk isn't safe, but Venom is the more popular character, so how about biting Sandman with a Venom bite destabilizes him somehow? Like, but yeah, like, Death Battle, it's or like yeah, it's always the for the sake of argument approach, and you could tell in their Carnage video, Carnage versus Lucy from Elfenlied, that they were kind of loath to not really be able to do that because they didn't have a Carnage feat to match the best like one-off Venom feat they could find, like well, like lifting the Ferris wheel or something. Technically, a Ferris wheel weighs, and like Carnage has consistently gotten the best of Venom, consistently been shown to be just plain stronger, but they don't have a one-off of him doing something like that. So yeah, they had to be like, so Carnage was supposedly even stronger than Venom.
Wow.
And I mean, these guys try really hard, and actually, I feel like they might have just like honestly, their ending speech to Goku Superman 3 was good enough so that they might have actually, yeah, won the argument for doing what they do right there, but it gets tedious at times.
Wow.
All right.
Anyway, I guess getting back. So, any other media stuff everyone's been up to?
Let's see, media stuff.
Yeah, more general media nerdy focused sort of stuff.
Anything in media nerdy? Oh, excuse me. No, nothing media nerdy so far. Nope.
From my end, from watching like some from anime this season, it looks like Dr. Stone has sort of hit like a very big high for like an ending climax for like one of their big arcs. Even better than the Stone Wars arc, actually, with season 3. Like
Wow.
with like mental mind games that like surpass some of the mental mind games I've seen from their fellow shonen. I'm like, okay, Dr. Stone is hiding the combat genius of shonen authors need to pick up on. Like, because I didn't think I would be like so enthralled by like, okay, who's gonna get the item that just actually turns people into stone? Is it gonna be a Sentu, or is it gonna be a weird old guy? And it's like the old guy is literally actually being too cautious. Oh my god, he actually petrified people. Oh god, he got Senku. What the heck? Senku, what the like spurring like a liquid on himself in order to make himself unpetrified at the same time that he got petrified. Like literally, it's basically like a cat and mouse game of like who gets the Medusa stone, who gets the Medusa. It's like, oh my god, that's like one of the best fights I ever had.
Yeah.
Hi, well, Daylover and I, let's see, if we're looking for geeky things that, the 8-bits get up to, we finally got a Black Friday deal on streaming services, so we went in on a couple. And we got Max and we got Paramount Plus, so our Star Trek binge continues on Paramount Plus. Or maybe binge is too strong, but yeah, we're starting to finally go in on Trekkie-isms. Just a little bit. And the more you start with it too, like you can actually appreciate how Star Trek was sort of like the original fandom, at least arguably so. Like, I don't know, having mainly been molded to be the good son who was on the wrestling team and got the A's in the math class and was no wishy-washy geek type. And no, I love my parents, but nothing like that. But like, I don't know, me being a geek is a bit of a split off from the norm in my family, and I never really got close to Star Trek. They rented us the one where they go back in time to get the whales because everybody likes that one, not the Trekkies like that one, and other people, if they see it, are like, oh, that was good. No, everybody likes that one. But okay, maybe not like the super anal retentive like eco haters, because it does actually go harder on that than you might remember on environmentalism. But yeah, it's only recently that I've really come across any Star Trek at all. And as I start to see the more movies and stuff, I'm like, okay, not even just the sci-fi concepts, but the humanism, the interesting characters, the fact that you could be anyone and still be a part of the Star Trek crew, if you knew what you were doing. Like, I can really see how that would appeal to people who were maybe misfits elsewhere, but like wanted to come together as a part of something. I mean, in fact, it honestly, like, seems a lot more like, as much as we make fun of Trekkies, the franchise itself and what you imagine people were getting into seems a lot more dignified than a lot of the fandoms we have these days.
True.
Boy, what can I say? Although, that said, though, the one that everybody likes still really might be the best one. Dale ever had never seen the Whales one, so seeing that again with, like, the crew interacting with 20th century New York, it's like, you forget how sometimes just how the Star Trek crew are all, like, genuinely good characters, and, like, seeing them just, like, this Rorschach test of how they react to all of this is actually really, really funny. So, I don't know. Maybe I would have taken to Trekkiisms more than I realized if I'd come across it sooner. But better late than ever, even if we are pretty much skipping the odd ones, as lore says you can. Like, they say basically, okay, watch Star Trek 3 because it's the best odd numbered one and it's really not skippable. But otherwise, just the even numbered ones, and even then you can kind of leave out 10. And I don't know, it's like, I watched all the James Bond movies, even the ones with bad reviews, and I actually liked more of them than I thought I was going to. There's only 3 James Bond movies I don't really recommend, 4 if you count the 1960s Casino Royale, because that is the worst of both worlds between acid and NyQuil. But still, though, I don't know. It's like, trying to go through so many movies on streaming services, and with so much Trek material to get caught up on. If we're gonna do that, that's supposed to be just unabashedly good. I don't know if I want to, go for somewhere okay is the high bar, is the high ceiling of what you're probably gonna think.
Interesting.
I mean, if I don't know, Star Trek 9 is supposed to be okay, except Linkara hates it. Star Trek 7, if I'm going to see any of the other odd-numbered ones, I feel like it's going to be 7, because that's the passing the torch one, and the actual passing the torch parts of the movie do get some praise. But 1 is supposed to be Star Trek trying to be 2001: A Space Odyssey and coming up boring. Star Trek 5 is supposed to be William Shatner thought he could direct, and everybody says it's the worst Star Trek movie. And I mean, I feel like if you come in expecting that to not be how it works out, well, you're certainly optimistic. And Star Trek 10 is supposed to be how to end, not with a whimper, not with a bang, but with a, okay. So maybe a little bit of a whimper. I don't know. Am I the only one who's even a little bit who's even into this franchise as much as I am?
I honestly stopped after Next Generation. Sorry.
Okay, so you might still be farther along than I am. You've seen the original show and Next Generation.
I've seen bits and pieces. I've seen bits and pieces of both.
Okay.
I've seen bits and pieces of both, but one of these days I ought to cannonball. I don't know if I will ever cannonball either of those two seasons. That's about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know what the funny thing is? I still can't wrap my head around this one, but apparently the best of all Star Trek shows is supposed to be neither the original nor Next Generation, but I believe it was Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, that's even the fandom agrees that okay, unless I'm saying the wrong one, but I'm going to stick with that for now because my memory has gotten things right on less. Yeah, Deep Space Nine is the best Star Trek show. That's
really? Deep Space Nine, huh?
That fans.
No, it's not real. No, there are no wars starting here. No, and I mean that really.
What do you mean?
I was like, hey, no wars starting here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, if some spin-off just came out of the gate and had its finger on the pulse of something inspired enough. Apparently it broke some new ground even. Then I've heard of weirder things, especially since Star Trek 1 was supposed to have 2 good seasons and one third one when they were like, oh, well, fans are really yelling for it to come back, so I guess we could try, but not really. Third season Star Trek is not considered worthy of the first 2, and then Next Generation was supposed to start with a pretty big thud, actually. It's how bad people trash it. It's actually kind of wild to me that it is now retroactively considered maybe even better than the first one.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, my main interaction with Star Trek as of late is just seeing clips of Lower Decks.
Yeah, so I've seen 2 episodes apiece of the first one and of Next Generation, so yeah, still got a long way to go, but we've seen about 4 movies now, and Deliver and I both got to take a turn as the one who has seen one of the ones we were watching that the other one hasn't, so yeah, reactions and all that.
I guess aside from that, anyone seen the new season of Rick and Morty?
I don't watch Rick and Morty.
Yeah, I don't either.
I see the highlight clips,
which was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I see the highlight clips, but I don't really watch this show itself just because I think the show's was getting better. I have no idea what direction it's going to go in now with the creator gone.
Yeah.
But I like the direction it was generally going, where Rick wasn't as much of an asshole. Because just the series for a while is basically it's one of those shows that it feels it's more clever than it is, and it tries to. It's like, oh, you expect us to do this twist, so we're going to be meta about it, and it's too into itself. So it's that's yeah.
I did see the one with Mr. Mises. He's the guy who who desires to disappear from existence because he's only been summoned to help you with your one request.
Yeah, so, that's a season 1 episode.
Yeah, he will not go away until he does that. I mean, yeah, I'm sure that Rick and Morty gets pretty obnoxious at times. I watched Renegade Cut's analysis of how there does seem to be a philosophy of like some cruelness is necessary with Rick, which he unequivocally denounced as for just like edgy dude bros, and as a step backwards for the humanism we already really don't have and kind of need, and we've really dried up on when we need it in recent years. But that said, like, I mean, you know, sometimes like creativity is creativity. Like that particular episode is the only one I saw. I was like, okay, that is a really fun bit of thinking outside the box.
So, yeah, like the reason why I asked is because like season 7, it started out poor with like an episode about Mr. Poopy Butthole. And then like with like Hugh Hefner, like it was an odd episode involving a predator or something like that. Then the episode's starting to get a bit decent with like, you know, an episode about like, oh, what would happen if a certain topic causes an alien human to have their insides be spaghetti and be some of the most delicious spaghetti you ever had in your life. What sort of thing should you do about this information? Like it sort of challenges you with like some ideas like that. And then they decide like in the middle of the season to like, you know, end the plot line of like Rick dealing with like the person who literally traumatized him all the way back when he was like a young adult, like killing his wife and such. Oh, you know, the Rick, Prime Rick. While also combining that with evil Morty helping out with the actual kill. And then leaving off of like the device that Prime Rick had that was just like, oh, this is just a thing that just deletes all versions of a life form like on all timelines, basically. If you decide to chase after me, I could just easily wipe you off from existence completely.
LOZ.
Yeah, like... yeah,
as happened to Rick in the newest Death Battle.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Like, but then like afterwards, it was like, oh, let's just have like an episode of like just trying to like get the flow back by doing an audit of like those Morty coupons that like Morty has been stacking up. Then we actually had our very first summer leading episode with her name being in the actual title for an episode for once. Which that was about like Quados and a Total Recall, basically. And then the most recent episode is the biggest throwback to a season 2 episode, in which the main character is not Rick or Morty, but Mr. Goldenfold, the math teacher. And he's literally being sent up to space with Morty by Ice-T, who, if you remember at the end of Get Swifty, gets reverted back to Water Tea. And that end clip literally becomes its own episode, in which it's a full-on Transformers the movie homage. With no sign of Rick whatsoever. And it's just literally just alphabet letters and numbers going at it against each other. It is some of the most dumbest writing, but it is so fun at the same time.
Well, here's to that.
Yeah, so basically what I've got to say about season 7, it honestly feels like fun has been brought back to Rick and Morty. And then also in terms of like plot lines, yeah, we kind of reached a certain plot line now of like, there's not really many episodes of Rick and Morty being together. So it's kind of hinting at a sort of like actual divide that might happen soon. And also actually dealing with like the comeuppance of like actually getting your revenge. And then feeling hollow afterwards. So yeah, probably best season. I'm just going to say that. It's not really like a full glowing recommendation to be like, oh, you guys should watch all of Rick and Morty. Like, if you don't like the type of comedy Rick and Morty is, this season's not going to change it. For me, watching all of Rick and Morty, it's just been a lot of fun. Seeing something like these one-off characters get some focus episodes, like the president, the therapist for episode 3, like about them trying to hook up together, and then that messes up with like Unity coming back. Like, yeah, there's been a lot of callbacks. It could be a bit distracting if you don't remember all the details.
Oh, actually, here, you want something weird, by the way. Deliver and I, our first movie on Max, we made an interesting pick, a movie I'd heard about in passing from a couple of years ago, little Jesse Eisenberg vehicle called The Art of Self-Defense.
Okay.
I guess I'm the only one who's heard of it, right?
No. Never heard of it.
Oh, you... No, I'm not, or no, you haven't heard of it?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, Art of Self-Defense starts out like it's going to be, I guess, a very straight-faced, almost Karate Kid parody. Like, Jesse Eisenberg is an accountant as old as Jesse Eisenberg actually is. So, yeah, mid-30s. He's, like, wimpy, withdrawn, and, like, I don't know. I will say Jesse Eisenberg is in top form here, like, how, yeah, revealing somebody that's, like, awkward enough in public like you'd think he'd be, but then, like, just through his pure acting letting you know that, oh, okay, this is not just awkward nerdiness, this is a bit of a, like, condition, this is a bit of a, why can I never remember this word when I need it? This is a, yeah, pathology a little bit, and, yeah, so he gets mugged, he gets jumped, like some bikers beat the heck out of him for seemingly no reason at all, and goes to buy a gun, but then after being told he has to get a background check, and, you know, with a lot of digs on gun ownership in there, like, okay, now, gun owners are more likely to commit suicide, gun owners are more likely to be shot and killed in a conflict, and, yeah, because I guess having a gun makes someone else more likely to pull a trigger on you.
Right, right.
So, and all of the above. And, oh yeah, and more household accidents. Pause. I think you're going to love owning a gun. And so, meanwhile, he wanders into a karate dojo where, yeah, some sensei who is, like, doing these deadpan, like, parody lines of every, like, karate thinks outside the box kind of lines you've heard, like, all right, you need to learn how to punch with your foot. You've been taught that you can only kick with a foot. You need to open your mind. And, like, I don't know, it's like, it half sounds like a parody of what a sensei would say and half sounds like White Goodman, but, like, the rest of the movie, he's very just, like, straight-faced. It's almost like a realistic, hyper-realistic coming-of-age movie of this with parody overtones. So, like, Jesse Eisenberg decides he wants to do karate instead, and he starts to get hyped up on this, and he's all proud of himself looking at the mirror with his yellow belt tied around his blue jeans, and he's thinking about how he wants to wear it all the time, but that's stupid, so he buys himself a belt that's yellow, so it can be like he is, and he's all smiles going through practice, and he's carrying himself a little taller, and then he tries to stand up to somebody who hits him with his door, and yeah, it goes about the way you think it would go when somebody who's chronically passive, yeah, tries to assert for the first time against somebody who's not willing to be asserted on, which is to say it goes terribly, and he drives his car home in, like, ugly crying tears, and yeah, and then Jesse Eisenberg, that comes across exactly like how someone who was getting built up and then it didn't work out would cry, which is to say, like, yeah, it's awkward that you really are glad nobody's there to see you because you feel so cringe. And then the sensei, of course, is, like, has a very sensei, like, self-parody thing to say that an underconfident kid probably would buy into, and etc., until it gets dark and weird. And I cannot emphasize that last part enough. Weird. Actually, maybe I can't emphasize dark enough either. He's invited to join the sensei's night class, where a kid who thinks he's been in the class long enough to join shows up even though he wasn't invited, and the sensei uses the kid to demonstrate punching an arm the wrong way till he snaps his arm so hard it's bleeding broken and kicks him out of the class forever. And that is barely for starters. It turns out the sensei is running a murder cult of sorts bent on machoing everybody up enough. He's the one running the bike gang who jumps people so that they will join his class and feel the need to be more macho. And it's like, I can only imagine the idea was to call out like Andrew Tate stand type of people and be like, all right, so how far would you be willing to continue following this rabbit hole? I mean, like, this is a more macho solution than such and such. Would you do that? It's like, people get shot. People get challenged to fights to the death. The Grandmaster, who the movie likes reminding us, was shot with a shotgun while training on top of a mountain, having been mistaken for a bird, is alluded to a lot with his technique to put his index finger through people's heads. That's how he became the ultimate Grandmaster and awarded himself the first and only rainbow belt. I mean, cool down time where everybody gets a nice, deep tissue massage to not hurt too much. It's, the newbie is unfortunately, with several apologies made to pair with the only girl in the class. So, the girl are like half disrobed in front of each other while she's apologizing the whole time, like, and everybody is taking this dead seriously, like, poor newbie has to go with the only girl. She's like, I'm sorry, my fingers are not as strong as the guys, even though she's the best martial artist in the class. It's just like, you can see this movie has things on its mind, and you can see that I don't entirely know how to feel about that, but, it was, strange.
Sounds strange.
I mean, it got decent enough reviews, and I mean, I guess that, this is not the worst way to call out Andrew Tate types, even though I have to imagine it was more calling out whoever his predecessors were, because this is a 2019 movie, but, damn. It's like, there is a surprising amount of people getting shot in this for what started out seeming like it was just going to be a straight-faced Karate Kid parody.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, on the other flip side, I also saw Risky Business, if I didn't bring that up already.
Oh, no, you haven't.
Mm-hmm. Past podcast. Yeah, it turns out, like, I might have seen it at just the right time, too, because, sorry about that. Plastic cup.
No problem.
When that happens. But yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, we've just gotten the whole, like, coming out about how, Risky Business is, it actually has an alternate ending that the director preferred. And, what was that? And, like, you've all seen Risky Business, right?
Oh shoot!
No.
I think you know what? I think I only saw that one scene of Tom Cruise that movie with Tom Cruise in that montage of him in that shirt and underwear. I think that I just seen a few seconds of it.
Yeah, well, actually, that's another one that's not entirely the movie you think it is. Can you guess which Risky Business they're talking about?
No, probably not.
Prostitution.
Okay, I must be thinking of something completely different.
Oh no, old time rock and roll is in there. Tom Cruise is left by himself with his parents who totally trust him because he's a good, responsible child. I mean,
yeah.
at least by standards of, like, I mean, they at least try to don't try to tell us that Tom Cruise is a nerd, but I mean, they make him more like a potentially Princeton-bound prep. So,
right. Particularly what they did with a lot of 80s male main characters.
Yeah. But it starts out with the thing that feels like it's destined to be slightly aged 80s cringe about how he's starting to feel his sexuality and he wants to explore it, and his friends get on him enough about it until he is encouraged to call a prostitute.
Oh my gosh.
And actually the first prostitute doesn't work out, but she recommends one that she thinks would be exactly what he's looking for, and that's shot like so over stylized. I thought it was supposed to be a dream sequence, but no, it really happens. It's together with her, and then the movie keeps going. That's Act 1. The rest is about his relationship with this prostitute. And
wow.
Just when you think this is going to be the most shameless of 80s fantasies, it it kind of splits the difference of that and like things to say about people who have Tom Cruise's life and people who have this prostitute's life. Like, yeah, acknowledging, for example, that Tom Cruise is pretty privileged to be living in a nice house where he can afford to do this when his parents leave him alone on the weekend for a week, and that we get just a little bit of this girl's backstory where it's implied that this isn't exactly something you would not do if you were her, which but her pimp starts tracking them down, like concerned that Tom Cruise is trying to muscle in on his territory. And meanwhile, the prostitute actually wants that. She's like, wow, your house is so nice. If we set this up for a night, we could make a killing here.
Wow. And
it doing exactly that turns out to not only work, but be one of the reasons that Tom Cruise might get into Princeton, because the scout shows up on that exact night. And Tom's like, when it turns out his stuff isn't quite good enough to get into Princeton, he's like, hey, can I make you an offer? And it gets bigger and more over the top, and it almost comes crashing down in a big flaming pile on Tom Cruise, but it actually, when the pimp, for example, steals all his stuff for taking his business, but it turns out this might have been the prostitute double-crossing Tom Cruise all along in a plan with the pimp to blackmail Tom Cruise for all the money he made.
Oh, wow.
And on. So a wild wingding adventure, but when he, gets everything back to reset as it was, like his parents come home and the house is back to normal, except one precious thing has a crack in it, so they're very disappointed in Tom Cruise. They send him out to the backyard to rake leaves. It like does this really deliberate slow-mo shot in on Tom Cruise, like his eye as he's wearing sunglasses. And then it's like hard swing into a happy ending where, it turns out that his trick worked. He got into Princeton. The prostitute still kind of likes him. They're talking about how, like, what's going to happen now that he's going to Princeton and all that. And they should spend one last night together, but they're still talking cute with each other. And it's, all of the above. And Tom Cruise goes out with this line, like, comparing his like what he did with the house to this project everybody in his senior class was supposed to be doing, like create a business, tell us how much money you made with it. Like, my name is something something, our business is paper towel dispensers, and we made $800 some in a month. And Tom Cruise, he goes, my name is Joel, whatever it was. I specialize in human fulfillment. I made $8,000 in one night. Time of your life, huh, kid? which is what the pimp said to him. So it's like, boom. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I kind of figured that was just like, okay, this movie said what Hollywood would allow it to say about, yeah, classicism and, yeah, prostitution and all that, time for the happy ending. But it turns out that's not what the director wanted. And it's not even like this is a Little Shop of Horrors, oh my gosh, that's so much darker twist. But yeah, it's like, it changing it was enough for him to quit Hollywood after just a couple more movies. Didn't have much of a career as a director outside of Risky Business, but yeah, instead it's like, yeah, now it only was just released, I think, in the past decade, recently for a movie as old as Risky Business is. And it's like, okay, instead, after the zoom in on Tom Cruise's face, it's like the dad comes out and gives him the same speech. Oh my gosh, you got into Princeton. They said they could use someone like you. And he still hugs his dad, but it like, zooms in on Tom Cruise's face, like he's, reflective about it, like, this is what I'm getting rewarded for, like, what I just did. And it doesn't end with Tom Cruise and the prostitute going down the street talking it like ready to have their one last night out, question mark, anymore. It ends with at the ceremony where his senior class is talking about how they set up businesses and stuff. And it's like him talking with the prostitute and like establishing that, okay, she did probably set him up, but like he's talking to her like, well, he actually wants to make sure she did, because if she didn't, that means that the pimp might still be mad at her. And when she realizes that that's what he's worried about, she's like, why does life have to be like this? And ends on a more like bittersweet note of him asking if he could hold her for a second. It's like acknowledging that, even with this, even if she did and she just pulled off a trick on him, she's still a prostitute and he's still a guy going to Princeton because of how they were born. And like all these people who did it the right way are up on stage saying, our business is this and this, and we made hundreds of dollars in a month. And then he goes out with almost the same line, but it comes across as much more cynical this time. He says, my name is Joel, I made $8,000 in one night. Ain't life grand? Which I could say that, what wins at life is not necessarily what should win at life. So I mean, as far as movies that are darker than their reputation would suggest, it's no Saturday Night Fever, but it was especially with that original ending, which I do actually agree worked better, and that's not the case with me, for the record. Every time I give a lot of directors' cuts a lot of hell, but this one I'm like, that's weirdly poignant and bittersweet.
Sounds like it.
Look. So but I've probably talked enough. Next person.
I really don't have anything left to say.
At least for me, like I've been catching up with some animes and stuff to do, and I think I already said I beat Spider-Man, which is my last big game thing. I'm just sort of trying to figure out what game thing to do next. I just sort of tried Kid Bridge of Spirits, which is a very pretty looking game, but like the gameplay is like something I'm trying Pikmin 4 next. But anime wise, it's been sort of on a high streak, so I think the last time I left off, I just finished Welcome to Demon School Irma Sensei, or Irma San, I forget what it's called, Irma. And that was a good like sort of shonen series. So I went on to something else, and I think I mentioned I was going on to the let me pull up the actual names. I actually had this saved. I moved on to the romance anime. There it is. Love After World Dominations, which is basically a Power Ranger and a Power Ranger villain falling in love. And I'll have to say that series hit so well. Yeah, I think I even joked about like how there's one thing that's disappointing with anime and all that is like the romances they don't really show dating. It's just all built up to date. This entire series is basically them dating continuously.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. Love after world domination is like really such a trip. Like I also really do like Def Musume's like struggles with like her employment when they want to like I don't know like try to upgrade her or just like want to change stations with her, which causes like big problem because it's like I don't want to be far away from my love. I gotta stay the way I am. Or do I even want this update of work? Like because I've been working steadily. It's like it's not even a question of morality. It's just more of like a question like how does this affect like my life or like my hardships and such. And it's like super cute about it.
mhm. But yeah, that series I can't really go much into, but like it really does. Like they are like and like they don't go far because they're basically the like inexperienced couple and all that. So like yeah, you don't expect very much realistic progress. But in terms of like emotional development, there is a lot of like this. They are a couple dealing with actually rather deep couple stuff. Um, and yeah, that was just in general great series. Like I highly recommend it as a romance anime. Um,
Mhm.
and then after that, I decided to try out Vivi Florient I Song, which is sort of a AI focused anime. It's sort of mixing like Terminator with what's that one
Violet Evergarden.
singer? No,
Oh,
the singer in Japan, like the digital singer,
Hatsune Miku.
Hatsume Miko. Yeah, it's like basically Hatsume Miko mixed with Terminator, where they basically send a message back in time to her to basically, yeah, we need to do these things to sort of prevent an AI war that will kill all of humanity. And yeah, and sent back to like a singer, the first like singer android. And yeah, it's a very emotional, like deep series. Yeah, tone wise, yeah, very much like sort of like Scarlet Evergarden. Um, I started watching because I thought it was a different series, but yeah, it's just kicked. Um, yeah, very Jordan emotional. Then from that, I was like, okay, I've been doing a lot of big hitting emotional anime. I need to just basically watch something that's basically
Pleasant.
potato chips, just some sort of junk food anime. So I watched. After that, I powered through Reincarnated as a Vending Machine.
Oh, that one.
Ah.
Oh, I love that one.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Oh,
Uh,
it's really good. It's like dumb premise, does the premise extremely well executing it. The
I feel
execution
like
is
I've seen that more from manga than I have from anime, but like, I mean, I'm not a hyper vigilant anime watcher by any means. I feel like the most interesting anime thing I've ever done is watch all the Studio Ghibli movies, including everything Takahata and Miyazaki made before they were officially Ghibli.
mm,
yeah, like I would say it's not like I was like, oh, this is higher. Like no, but it was like a fun junk food anime that I would watch.
Hmm.
Um, and just a very like because it knows what it is. It like is a parody of like the reincarnated thing. Like Dear Gosh, the way his like reincarnates or like why he got sent there is just so hilariously stupid. It's just endearing. Um, but yeah, it also just works like the show. This could only really work in Japan just because like yeah, his powers dealing with like becoming a vending machine and different vending machines. Yeah, only in Japan could that work where there's like literally a million different types of vending machines. Um,
Yeah. I'm
uh-huh.
assuming they have places to go there, like which button is which part of his anatomy.
No, they don't actually go with that. Instead, they just go with like explorations on communication because he can't talk normally, so he has to
Hmm.
use automated messages in order to communicate for him.
he was basically like a hello message and then like a too bad like we don't have this stuff and like he has to communicate with those unique phrase and they actually do that is actually a somewhat interesting realistic thing is like okay they deal with that communication restriction. um
Yeah, and like some of the conflicts for like a vending machine include the idea of like, oh yeah, it needs capitalism if it wants to continue living. Yeah, it needs to constantly be fed multiple coins if it wants to still have enough life for itself in order to stay living, you know? And how like it tries to not drive a wedge into businesses that's nearby, unless the businesses are trying to run off other people, in which case then it just goes rightfully vengeance mode on them by assisting local businesses with like better tasting foods and such.
Oh, did anybody see the Marvels?
No.
I've not seen the Marvels, and I've not seen the Marvels, but I've heard like some that they weren't very good. So I have no idea. I have no idea what to expect.
I've heard
in
it's
the
literally
wildly
the
mixed
lowest
reviews, I think it's going to come down as one of those movies that, okay, it's not like, yeah, a mixed bag so much as it's one of those things that's either going to hit you right or hit you wrong. And it hit me right.
Okay.
I had a really good time with it. I will say that the third act comes across like a lightweight as Marvel third acts go. It felt like a little streamlined. It felt like they decided to get to certain parts that in like certain character revelations that in ways that made them feel more in theory than totally valid because they weren't entirely earned. It felt like they went with they got cold feet and went with great is the enemy of good a little bit is what I'm saying. But I don't know. I mean, like, let's face it, the Marvel, like, well, heck, just Brie Larson's Captain Marvel character, and for that matter, Miss Marvel as well. Like, the culture war buzz is about as strong around them as it is in any character in the movies right now. So, of course, this was going to be a contentious one. But I don't know. I'm not sure that I've seen anybody like make an argument against it, presenting themselves as outside of that in a way that struck me as convincing enough. Yeah, honestly thought it was a lot of fun. Like, yeah. Miss Marvel is suddenly swapping places with people way above her weight class, while, Captain Marvel deals with the next phase of self-identity when you're Captain Marvel and you forgot who you were for like 50 years, and like now suddenly you're one of the strongest people in the universe trying to be the hero the flippin' universe deserves.
But
and also, what's her name is in there too, with powers through that. I don't know. I feel like, okay. Honestly, actually, the way I feel is just like I have a tough time with the arc between like Brie Larson and her best friend being transferred to the daughter. Like I feel like Marvel had to, in theory, that into being a thing, and in theory, her to being a superhero a little quicker than it did. But I mean, whatever. Nothing about it is bad. So, and it works. The changing places is a lot of fun. The fight scenes are a lot of fun. The character dynamics is a lot of fun. Samuel L. Jackson is a lot of fun. Like, Samuel L. Jackson teamed up with Miss Marvel for a fight scene. Tell me you're not a little bit curious. And he's still very much Samuel L. Jackson. Like, there's a part where she manages to steal a gun and she tosses it to him like Maestro, and he catches it in that way that, like, nobody can make catching a gun cooler than Samuel L. Jackson.
He's Samuel L. Jackson. Come on.
Exactly.
But
He's Samuel M.F. Jackson.
And he comes
need
like
we say more?
Too.
Need we say more?
Yeah, going back though, I guess the other anime I was just sort of getting back on is My Next Life as a Villainess. I'm going through season 2.
Oh, God.
Which is interesting because it's more like basically like what an older anime would call like OVAs, which is sort of like continuations, but more like slice of life continuations. But I think so far I'm like a little over halfway through, and like it's sort of like the big development is sort of like, oh yeah, she's starting to realize that they actually love her. And it's like, oh no, what to do. So yeah. But I was just gonna move on because it gets getting late to some of the news stories, and actually Marvel sort of ties in. I guess might as well cover sort of the bigger. I guess let's do the
Can I add a very short
smaller.
news story to kick off?
Oh yeah, I was
4
actually
words.
going to do a short one, but you can go your short one first.
Epic rap battles came back.
Oh,
Oh yay!
Yeah,
Oh, that's
Karl
nice.
Marx versus Henry Ford. How about that? Which, I mean, doesn't sound great off its face, but I mean, like, Epic Rap Battles has always been at least a little politically minded, and I mean, with all their stuff about Russian history and stuff, you knew they would have to get Karl Marx in there at some point. And, yeah, Henry Ford, it's like, it doesn't sound like they have much in common until you think about it for a second. Like, Henry Ford is one of, like, the, like, figures of lore in starting your own business, so it's like,
He's
yeah.
like the poster child of capitalism.
Exactly. That's what it is. Capitalism versus communism. And like, I mean, the downside of Karl Marx, it's like real obvious and on its face, like, oh, well, Stalin, it eventually led to that. So, duh. But I mean, I feel like Henry Ford's like Epic Rap Battles made sure to do their research, and like, it's one of those ones where they start rapping and you realize, oh yeah, Henry Ford, like, I knew Henry Ford didn't like the Jews. I didn't actually know how deep that went. So it's like, yeah, this is
Yeah,
actually.
I knew about that. Yeah, I knew that about that from like you reading biographies back in grade school. It's the way I feel like that was actually apparently explained is like Henry's thing. Like one of the thing like he hated in life was like people making money off of other people's money. So he hated banks and he hated other rich people. That's why he made his own mansion like separated from other rich people. But that sort of goes into his anti-Semitism because essentially, what's the stereotype about Jews?
Mm-hmm. Like,
They're into
which
banks and all
even like
that.
the
So
basis for
Yeah.
that stereotype is like 100% sympathetic to the Jews and not the people who was blaming them for that. Like, if you know the context, but yeah, that's like Henry Ford with his pathology. But I don't know, it like comes across like, especially with the places he went with, like where he took, how he ran his company and stuff, that comes across as kind of hypocritical on his part. But I mean, and yet there was like nobody is all black and white. Henry Ford, apparently he would like give criminals second chances, stuff like that. He would actually, some of his best employees would be ex-cons because they would be real grateful for the second chance he gave them. But I mean, yeah, like this one, like two guys with upsides and downsides, this ends up being a really juicy battle.
yeah, like Henry Ford, very much like Walt Disney, is very much a character where even Thomas Edison were like they are undeniably important to like American capitalism and culture and all that, but at the same time they do have a darker side. They have black and white in their characters, which is actually sort of makes them more interesting. Um, Like even Steve Jobs is sort of like was one of the more modern versions of that. Like yeah, Steve Jobs was absolutely helped revolutionize like modern digital infrastructure. Even though he wasn't an engineer, he knew what to go aim for. At the same time, everyone who worked with him considered like said he was an asshole to work with. Like
Yeah.
like
I
it
mean,
was
like on
like
its face too. Like this is, you know, I mean, I feel like yeah, the root of this culture war we're sort of having here is just like angst and uncertainty on where we're going to go, and like as much as 30, 40 years ago we would have said it was written in stone how it worked out. Like, well, just on its face, like okay, the core of the philosophy, what they were thinking, like okay, Henry Ford was all right. How can I use these people to make more money to like get more money flowing, and Karl Marx was, okay, how can I make this world more humanistic for all of these people? So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, granted, I hate we're in a culture war right now. I feel like Epic Rap Battles might know how to make good content out of it. And if nothing else, very entertainment content, because let me tell you, they beat the shiznit out of each other.
But yeah, going on to my sort of short news. Yeah, also I guess we're going off the culture where I feel it needs to be mentioned. It goes into some new Disney news later, but I'm mentioning this thing. One, Elon Musk like saying like basically saying Bob Iger can go F himself, which
Oh my gosh! Wow.
You might
there
be
are
slightly
I
insecure that Elon
understand
Musk.
like the complaints about Musk now, but I have to say I love that he just straight up said that because
Because
yeah, like there are definitely issues with Musk, which I'm just going to avoid that conversation because that's going to take like 30 minutes or so on itself. But like I just part of me really likes that he just straight up told like Bob Iger to go F himself. It's so childish, but I sort of love that. Going into the other sort of short news because like as I've learned, like theme park stuff isn't very interesting for everyone else in here. But the IAPA show happened between this one and last, which is sort of like the big trade show for theme park
Yeah.
stuff. A lot of Meyer stuff like you all wouldn't be interested too much in, or the audience. I'd say the one big thing is like that's sort of more controversial sort of thing is like the Six Flag Gudea, which is basically Six Flags Saudi Arabia, as an announcement of their projects and all that. So they're going to be like their Falcons flight's going to be the longest, tallest, fastest roller coaster in the world and all that. And it's like all this record breaker. And yeah, no one's going to be going to Saudi Arabia for a theme park.
Yeah, no one's gonna do that. And also, really,
Except
Saudi
rich people.
Arabia? I was like, really, Saudi Arabia? I'm surprised you aren't doing this. Wait a minute, Dubai probably already has one, so never mind.
Well, like Dubai's interesting. They tried to have a Six Flag. That basically when 2008 financial crisis hit, that was one of the things that sort of died because of it. I think they even had Universal was setting up a park there too, and like had even like the arch, like the Universal arch already built in the middle of the desert, but like it just stopped mid construction because of the 2008 financial crisis. Basically, freezed credit for a while. So yeah, a lot of those investments died. But there was like some actual parks there, like a Ferrari World and all that. So, but yeah. Dubai, I feel, is somewhat you can sort of justify, like you can have a theme park and all that there, but like Saudi Arabia, it's like, yeah, like there's sport, like sport washing stuff, but like you can sort of get away with that in a dark way, but like,
good luck
theme
though.
Yeah, you can sort of get away with it just because most people actually don't go to sports events. But like with theme parks and like you actually have to physically go there and when you in a country that can behead you for being gay, that's not no.
And I don't remember. See, I have a family member living in Dubai, so I'm like, what's their stance towards like women's dress code is? I forgot I don't remember if they're the one of the countries that they're really like they really crack down on like what women wear or something and such. I don't know if Dubai is one of them, but yeah, I ever talk to him again, I'm like, hey, what are the rules down there for you, man?
Dubai is more like, especially with locals, they're still sort of strict, but they're still more loose than Saudi Arabia sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
But they also but they are more friendly to foreigners, and like that's why they actually do make sense as like a travel hub and all that, because they aren't like American's not gonna like wearing a gay shirt's not gonna be pulled outside and like stoned to death. And Dubai.
But Dubai is it's strictly for the 1%.
Pretty much.
Dubai is strictly for the 1%.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But yeah, that's what I said. I was still want to bring it up because it's a controversial but also like, they're building this world biggest theme park and like they have a whole bunch of attractions. Actually, if you want to just look up attractions, it's interesting to look up that stuff. But yeah, like it's like, it's this great roller coaster that like only a few 100,000 people from Saudi Arabia itself are going to go to. But yeah, besides that, onto the other news I wanted to highlight, I feel is like, before I mentioned how Marvel's wasn't doing well and sort of continuing Disney's flop trend. Wish is doing even worse.
What?
Yeah.
Wish is doing worse?
Uh-huh.
How is that possible?
I can't set up. They didn't say anything about whether the opening was a disappointment, but they said it's not holding as well as they thought. Like, this is just a year of bombs.
Yeah, and like over the
How is
holiday
that
weekend, like
possible?
yeah, since it was released and all that, even before holiday weekend, it did not do. I think it was like the third or second film like highest rated when it was released. It didn't even get like I think it was, like returning movies actually did better. But just to put in perspective, as of now, and this was released before Thanksgiving, it has like at the global box office, it's only grossed 82 million. Disney's Wish, and also put that in perspective, released about the same time as the Trolls, the third movie, which is underperforming, but yeah, Trolls has made 160 million worldwide.
Not surprised because this is the one that got. Not surprised because this is the one that somehow got NSYNC out of retirement.
Yeah, but guess which one of these two is the one that has like an over $200 million budget?
I'm gonna say Wish.
Yeah.
Ah! I'm not surprised. Yet I am. What's the point in being surprised anymore? There is none.
Yeah,
But still,
the market is clearly
Wish isn't doing
oversaturated.
well.
But I mean, yeah, Wish, like, I mean, I know people complain about people not producing enough original content, but yeah, Disney has so dug into doing the opposite for so long.
True.
But yeah, from what I hear, like so Wish has not done. Yeah, it's not doing well at all, and from here, it's the same. Yeah, I've heard like it's basically a very mid. It's not a bad movie, but not a good one.
Impossible. Ooh.
But yeah, that's sort of like the news I wanted to go over. Yeah, it's like Disney's drama continues though. Disney, I think we were seeing today like a list of like the biggest movies of the year. Like Disney still has like, including all their brands, like 3 or 4 of the 10 biggest box office of the years. But at the same time, like I think only one of them actually met or exceeded expectations, which is like Guardians
of the Galaxy.
3. Yeah.
You know, like
the
Elemental underperformed and then overperformed. Like it became a sleeper hit, and I forgot that that's a thing.
Yeah, global economy really hits hard.
Yeah,
how about the story of why Elon Musk changed Twitter's name to X?
I refuse to acknowledge it. Yeah. I refuse.
Like, I mean, maybe I'm only just coming across it now, like it's only just starting to break the surface or something like that. But no, apparently Elon has a history of just really, really liking the letter X. That's the reason.
Because it's edgy.
Yeah, he originally, like before everything was merged into PayPal, the branch that he had, he named it X, and he kept telling people, reminding him that signifies porn when you're looking it up online. He kept telling them to shut up, and he got overruled when it was merged and all of it was named PayPal. So now he had another chance to name something X and just kind of wanted to go for it.
But let me see what's going on. I lost my train.
Yeah, so.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, I'm like, even if Vladimir Putin pulls out on him, like you can, rage at them as much as you want, Elon, but you're still kind of a dum-dum about this.
But yeah, that actually reminded me of a box office. Like, I feel like part of the reason like a lot of the Disney flops are happening as of late, which ain't really brought up a lot more. Where there's other issues. Like I think the Marvels thing is like everyone, not Marvel as a movie, but Marvel as the product, like franchise. I feel they're like the biggest issue there with Star Wars is there's just too much content and it's just too hard to keep up, so people don't. And I feel that's the biggest issue for those two in particular. But I feel another issue that's hitting Disney as a whole is Yeah, if you haven't noticed recently, the Chinese box office has been doing very poorly for Western films for the last like 4 or so years. Um,
Oh,
because before, remember, like, oh yeah, Pirates of the Caribbean 3 or Transformers could make $500 million just blinking in China. And China was like the second biggest market for films outside the U.S., even surpassing some in the U.S. And then nothing's really been hit there, at least from Hollywood. The Chinese the Chinese made films for China actually are doing very well right now in China, but the Western films are no longer like a license to print money just by opening up in China.
You want to listen to our opinions about this too. We cover the full political compass on this show. We got everyone from the moderate leftist libertarians to the centrist libertarians, full spectrum. Or at least I think that's as far as we cover. Anyone care to correct me on that?
I'm just curious where you're putting who's who.
I don't know. I think of the four of us, you seem the most centrist, or slightly left-leaning. I think we're all libertarians because I don't know who is an authoritarian that's not a government official, but yeah, I don't think anybody likes authoritarian, so I think we're all on the bottom side of the compass. But right and left, I don't know. Anybody care to correct me on that? Does anyone want to be like, no, I am right and proud?
No, I don't think so.
Okay then.
Sorry.
Yeah, but that's what I was asking about this whole spectrum, because I was like, okay, who's gonna pick? Because I'm openly centrist something, and I would say by contrast, I hear more right than like this group as a whole, just by comparison. But yeah, that's what I was curious. Like, okay, who's the more right wing person than me on here? Is like, okay, I'm curious.
I mean, like, what is right and left really?
Are you?
Well,
Is that rhetorical or are you asking?
Actually asking, even if it sounded rhetorical.
it's like it's just basically what they believe. It's just basically their beliefs that color them either left or right.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken a lot of forms, especially in modern culture. But okay, like I guess what's the best way to summarize it? I guess the right wing approach is the like united ideals and but individualistic
Right wing,
sick of being
anything.
left to live more individualistically by the government and stuff. Like everybody has to sink or swim by their own merits with all the good and the bad that comes from that. And left wing is like everybody is free to have their own ideals, but like everybody gets more safety nets, like programs and stuff have more of a hand in whether you and how far they allow you to sink before they safety net you and stuff like that.
Okay.
But one thing I will say, right, anything kind of right leaning to me seems scary. Just seems scary for me personally.
Yeah.
And
I guess oh god, sorry, I thought you were.
No, it's all right. That's all right. I accidentally did that to you earlier. I apologize. But to me personally, it is just anything right for me scares me, honestly, because I just seen because I think my problem is I've seen there's the extreme of both ends, that's for sure, and the extreme right ones are like frightening. I've not seen what the extreme left is like, but I'm sure it's something. But I'm sure if I cared enough to like track them down, I'd probably be like looking at them like, what, at the same time too.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's like too much of a good thing in anyone. Like, I think you could take leftism far enough so that it's like a Gandhi anarchist, like
Look up Portland.
Yeah. There should be no autonomy whatsoever. Like, I mean, I don't know. I guess, like, the way I guess I don't know if I believe it's all, like, yeah, like the ship should sail the same direction through every storm. Like, I don't know if it's the right way to be as a fixed point for me because, yeah, not everyone lives in the same world. Not every era lives in the same world. Like, maybe there's a reality where sailing the ship straight down the center is what I believe in. Right now, I think we've been on a right charted course at least since the 80s, arguably earlier, and I think it's really starting to break some things, and that, yeah, we're due for some fixes. Like, I see it as, like, well, at least the way it comes out to me a lot, leftism is like the flow of ideas and modernity and new approaches, new ambitions and stuff, and the right wing is the bottleneck that allows only the best ones through, or like at what it's supposed to do is to efficiently vet them and only allow the best ones through. I think we've been at a point for a long time where they've been permitted to close that bottleneck just about all the way, and the quote unquote left wing in the United States has become kind of a well, I mean, maybe we don't have to try that hard. We can just kind of point out how that's kind of extreme and be like, well, I mean, at least we're trying to get a little bit through, so vote for us.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Weirdly, I might be one of the people who's gotten on board, who, embodies how this generation goes the opposite way as they get older than the last one thought was how it works. Like, you get more conservative as you get older, and like I said, all ships on the same course. I feel like a lot of people are starting to get more, like, liberal as they get older. Like, you've put off the need for what? For how long?
I think it could go both ways, honestly. It really can go both ways, but people's like, lives and experiences can really color how they'll be in their future. It's really all that is just a tossed bag of where they're gonna go, of where they'll go, and if they've stayed one course for like all their lives and nothing changes them.
That was like that comic that Bizarro had, one called Real Life versus Politics. Okay, real life. Here is a stubborn idiot. I never change my mind no matter what new facts arise. And here is a wise and responsible person. I adjust my opinions based on the latest information. All right, thank you. And now, here is a political strong leader. I never change my mind no matter what new facts arise. And here is a spineless flip-flopper. I adjust my opinions based on the latest information.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, granted, it's not entirely that simple, but yeah, he's got a little bit of a point there.
Double standard, I guess.
Oh,
or depends on who's looking at it.
I guess if you're going to apply a rationale, the idea is that you should have already figured out what you believe before you became a leader. But, yeah.
But yeah, just going back, like, both sides have their pros and cons, and I think when you say right and left, is like fundamentally, at least in the U.S., it generally leans conservatism on the right and like liberalism on the left, which, as like, this is one lesson I still remember from middle school, is basically conservatives, it's in the name itself. It's basically preservation of what exists, like more stability, but at the same time, it doesn't really offer as much growth or change.
Right.
Another side, liberalism, is basically always about the new ideas change. You must always constantly be changing, even if that change isn't needed and sometimes can make things worse.
Right. Makes sense.
Well,
and that's fundamentally
ideas,
both are.
New ideas are by definition untested, and that's where I'm okay with the idea of them having a bottleneck. I guess I've become more. I don't know if I'm the most radical person here because there are many people who are more radical than I am, but I'm like, okay, yeah. How was I going to put it? I feel like the United States definition of what was moderation has long since been more like, okay, how much chest beating can we get you to back down from so the privileged continue to get their way? Which, I don't know, I didn't see it as that when I was in college, so I was I had much more moderate political views. Growing up has been like, oh, well, screw that, if that's what it actually is.
Yeah, I think the problem, like, I think my image of the both Democrats and Republicans right now is Democrats are right now sort of in a split of just two camps. Basically, I would say a third of them are more like becoming the hyper liberal. I wouldn't say communistic, but that paints the idea of it. The more radical socialist, and then there's also the 2/3 that are still the more fiscal conservative liberals who are just more like, oh, we're doing social programs and all that, but it's still more pro business and all that. So more traditional Democrats. Republicans
like
are more
moderates with a couple of liberal tendencies, I guess, is how they're abridged described.
Which used to be more, but I feel like the more hyper liberals are getting more foothold.
Yeah, but they are still not the majority. Like, we are really reluctant to turn the keys over to. Well, okay, for comparison, Donald Trump got elected, railing as hard as he could about some stuff. But yeah, we've turned the keys over to one of him. We've never turned the keys over to a Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. But before it used to be pretty much Bernie Sanders and like one or two others, but now it's more noticeable. Still like a minority, but like I would say, Democrats are more easy. There's like really just those two camps, and then a few like just sort of true like middle ground moderates who are sort of like, yeah, we're Democrats, but sort of centrist. I forget what his name.
Biden's and stuff.
Biden's always, but the one that comes to mind, I forget the name from West Virginia, the senator from West Virginia.
Not Manchin, right?
Manchin. How it's like he's like the true middle ground, like centrist, whereas like he's Democrat,
like an absolute
but sort of
centrist, or even a little bit of
he's more of a centrist,
even as right as he is left.
Yeah. But yeah, like that's there's a few speckles of like odd things like that, but like it's generally just like the more official, traditional, moderate, fiscal conservative Democrats are like 2/3 of them, and then 1/3 is more radical, which actually used to be smaller. It's grown more, and then the Republicans are more a mishmash of basically everything else.
Like they had their moderate side too, but I feel like after Mitt Romney, that side unequivocally lost.
Yeah, but I won't say it's lost. It's mixed because there's not like there's two, because there's the more moderate, like the more traditional, like Republicans, which are more just pro business. It's basically more pro business moderates. Then there's the libertarian Republicans, which are growing more pure libertarian, but also just mixed libertarian, which I would say is like they don't actually like the ones that don't actually want to burn down all the government, but like still want to just fundamentally the idea behind it. And then there's I would say the Trump group, which is more radical. I would say more radical, but not radical, because one of the terms I've come to hate most really is like alt-right. That's such a broad, stupid term that's grouping so many people together. It's just sort of becoming idiotic.
Well, I mean, it's like the thing about that is like, regardless of the actual distribution of the demographics, there is a certain, why can I never think of the right word when I need it? There's a certain sense of presentation that, like, okay, regardless of the demographics people would prefer, and I actually feel like this is a problem on both sides, that there's like there's a certain salesman pitch to it, like who you get is not necessarily determined by who everybody, if they got a careful look at all of the above, would say you should get. It's who sells themselves the best. And yeah, right now, whether it remains that way remains to be seen. But yeah, right now, Trumpism is kind of the face of the Republican Party, whether it deserves to be or not. Like he's drowning out the other faces so much that it's like that it is the only image they have to group behind. It's like, okay, either that or you're the equivalent of a third-party candidate supporter.
And I think, like, the thing you have to admire about Trump is, like, the thing about him is, like, it's sort of impressive that, like, basically he's a spoiled, rich person who's had his silver spoon in his mouth his entire life. Yet somehow he's connecting to voters more than, like, everyone else. Like he somehow is basically the populist politician, even though there's nothing populist about him, which is really just saying how bad a lot of the other candidates are.
Yeah, well, that's like the performative Republican Party's grip on the zeitgeist. I feel like, we, for a long time, we've gotten into and have even adopted this as something that we currently see as quote unquote American, a sort of baseline, God damn it, me and my vocabulary today. A baseline theory sort of approach, a machismo as a philosophy applied to all approaches of success. The idea that you have theory, machismo, and quote unquote common sense from your tough downtrodden life, and that is what you, and by extension America, are going to conquer the world with. I feel like, I don't know, somehow Trump, whether from being a celebrity of sorts, from making that his brand, that he will roll you over with his blunt style of speaking, and his fearlessness and flaunting his wealth and his success to the extent that he has it. Like, he is almost like a hyper exaggerated caricature of what the Republican Party kind of wanted to be their mascot originally, and he's like taken that so deep. Like, if you embrace narcissism even a little bit over the last 20, 30 years, if you liked Simon Cowell telling people who actually thought they could sing to piss off, if you liked Gordon Ramsay whipping chefs into shape and kicking ones who just couldn't get with it to the curb, if you like Daniel LaRusso montaging up and punching someone out in The Karate Kid, there's probably something that appeals to you at least a little bit about Trump.
Well, this is something that really pains me to say, but like, I feel like one of the best explanations of the rise of Trump is from Michael Moore, which disgusts me to agree with him on anything. But like, he basically said, like, he predicted Trump, like, even before like the 2016 election, where he's just like, someone like him is just going to come in and just like, because people are sick and tired of like this current system, he's basically a big middle finger to the current system that's going to basically burn it all down. And for some, that appealing, the option is like, we could do same old, or we could just basically throw a torch to it. It might save it, it might burn everything down, but that's sort of the options, and people want to go with that big middle finger. Because
I did hear that speech, and I mean, as much as I feel like that is one place he directed it at, I almost feel like it goes even more baseline than that, and like a big middle finger to the system. I feel like he's just a big middle finger. Anything he brings up that you like, if you happen to have an issue against it, he sells you on this fantasy of a burn it down. Like, you don't like people who you don't know anything about crossing the border. He's going to build a giant symbol industrial metal on the border, a giant monument to his ego, if I'm being honest. But no, he's going to build, a giant symbol of strength on the border that is going to keep them all out. You don't like, doctors telling you that you got to mask up and you got to be careful. He's going to waltz right up to the stage in no mask and tell them to fuck off. You don't like, what's another one? Give me another one. You don't like being told that you got to respect women more. Nobody respects women more than me. Nobody respects women more than you by extension. You know what? Like, equal treatment and all that. We're just trying to tell it like it's always been. What's wrong with that? Like, there is no fantasy he can't spin of, some kind of machismo rolling over anything you have any anxiety about. I don't think it's just the system. I think it's literally any anxiety that someone who's plausible to vote for him has.
But yeah, just going back, like, fundamentally though, like, I feel like
101, we like being the ones with the power.
But like, just going back though, like, fundamentally though, like I think anyone agree, like, the thing with him, like, why people like him, what I feel is he very much is not a politician. Like, when I see a politician, like, the idea of a politician as in, like, there's a lot of politicizing, and there's a lot of Game of Thrones, and you have to go and make agreements and all that. He does none of that shit. He doesn't care, like, and like that appeals to some people who just are sick of like the more traditional like political figures like the Mitch McConnells, the Hillary Clintons, like people are like, just probably like Trump appeals to regular people more than those two.
Yeah, like they took the image management, the chess game of that so far that the lack of care for that is in and of itself an appealing image, is in and of itself, something that solves the problem they're trying to avoid of, like, okay, I had it there and then I lost it. It's very late, but
yeah, it's getting late.
Image management, like that's I think what a lot of these politicians forget sometimes, that is like as they're trying to keep everything quiet and hyper managed, that that in itself affects how we see you. We can see how you're doing that. Someone who clearly doesn't care about that even a little bit is going to come across as more straightforward in some way, as like they have something more to be proud of insofar as what they really are. It's like it's a story of how someone who's about as dishonest as you could be came across as more honest to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think as of now I'm going to cancel the original idea of the Christmas discussions because it's getting late and it's awkward side away from there. But yeah, I know this is an interesting way. Like, we were going to start with the news about more nerdy stuff and we went on to like, all right, what's right versus what's left.
It's funny. It has kind of been a long time coming, though. I feel like we always circle these news issues and like we all get a little bit of our thoughts in there. But we like the us underneath it, and we're gonna run into that discussion sooner or later.
No, I guess that's a part of me of like how we can just go off the rails sometime in a good way. But that's sort of why I'm going to try to change the podcast format more over time. I'm sort of been experimenting more because what I originally had for was just more reaction stuff and discussions, but it doesn't really play well. It's sort of hard to do. And then I feel more rigid news and like this topic isn't, so I'm playing with ideas but yeah, in general I wanted to be a little bit more free form, but like slightly more engineered sort of stuff. But I'm trying to play with that.
Yeah. On that note, I mean, I have treated this as like something to not like self-manage too much, because I mean, I've run my own podcasts. I know how to rein in, vet, like cut off speeches, think time, and I mean, currently through these. I haven't put that restriction on myself too much. If you want to go in a direction where we start doing that a little more, I can be more mindful of that.
Like I said, I'll play with the format in general more over time. Possibly like in 24-bit, this podcast series, and that's basically restarted something new. But I'm playing with ideas. I'm playing with ideas for my own channel for what heck I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
But there a lot of train of thought. Yeah, but yeah, politics interesting sort of thing, and how right now it's Israel itself is like a very interesting dynamic of like, oh, that's
Boy, is that
something
been a
like a
Rorschach
topic you don't
test
want.
for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's like a topic that you don't want to sort of touch with a 10-foot pole, but at the same time, it's very interesting breakdown where it's like.
Here's a take that we
Yeah.
might all be able to agree on with there. Why the hell do we do these things to each other?
True.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we can all agree on that. It's like, what? Yeah, exactly what you said.
Like, but yeah, that barely even skims the surface, though. So I guess as you were saying.
But yeah, like I said, that's hard to say. That's a topic of it. Like I don't even know that we'd never cover that, but it's just sort of an awkward thing of like, it's like objectively Israel is the good guy, air quotes, but at the same time Israel isn't doing all good things. Like before the collateral damage of this recent thing, which is sort of just unavoidable parts of war, like Israel can't really go after Hamas and have like low casualties. Like this
Right.
land is like stupidly dense. But even
I'd say
before that, like
unequivocally, like terrorists that attack civilians are the bad guys, but it's like Israel. I mean, they are like the history usually points to them being the victimizer and not the victims, which is really where it gets really, really hairy.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
I said going back, like I said, they before the like collateral damage, it's just like that's making the news now, but like it's really like Israel justifiably is just like going to eliminate Hamas. Like they're not going to like break them and then break a peace. No, their goal is to completely and utterly eliminate them at this point. And there's no like clean way to do that, to be blunt. Like it's like fighting Hitler's Germany. There's no clean ways to like get the good Germans from the bad Germans. Like we're going to burn Dunkirk. So yeah, but trying to get before all that more recent thing, Israel hasn't exactly been a good actor. Like one thing that upsets me is basically the West Bank settlements are undefinitively bad. Like that's like. But fundamentally, I feel the biggest issue in Israel, like because they are becoming more right-wing and more conservative, which is part because demographic, essentially the only high population, growing population, Jewish population there is the more stupidly conservative Jews. The Amish Jews are the highest growing Jews in Israel right now, which is why Netanyahu, I cannot pronounce his name. I'm tired.
Netanyahu.
Yeah, why he's been in power. Yeah, why he's been in power so long is basically getting the more conservative groups behind him, including them. But so Israel is a bit more conservative, but as a whole, I feel Israel is just getting burned out. It's like essentially we keep offering peace and it keeps getting rejected, and it's essentially like and Israel is sort of in a no-win negotiation because like especially against Gaza area, because basically you can't really negotiate with someone who's not a good faith actor. Like it's like someone you really can't negotiate with or deal. And fundamentally, Palestine also has the issue of like there has never been a Palestine country. It's always essentially been a what's the word I'm looking for? Not colony.
A settlement or something, or
it's been a vassal state of empires for like the past 2,000 years.
Jeez.
And really does not know that it really has been passed around from one, like the last like independent nation in the area that wasn't part of a bigger empire was, well, Israel. Way back when, like the Romans beat the crud out of them.
Right.
So like, but yeah, then now the current Israel is a more stable new nation, but like Palestine itself is essentially like there's no one to lead. And when chaos exists, is like, yeah, when there's chaos, there will be, well, disaster.
True.
And it's also like no one else wants to take in the Palestine. It's like, oh, well, other nations will just absorb Palestine. No, they don't want Palestine.
No, they don't want it to exist. They don't want it to exist.
No, like I'm talking about like not Israel, but like Palestine, the Palestinian Muslims. Like the Egypt doesn't want to like annex Gaza. Like no way in hell they want to do that. Even besides like well, they have a right to exist. No, they do not want Palestine. Neither does Jordan or Syria. Like there's a long history of like where people who take in Palestinian refugees have like had terrorist issues.
Wow.
And that's part of just like I said, going back to there's never been really leadership there. So, well, when you have no leadership there, it creates radicals to basically fight the oppressor, bigger forces, which is like, yeah, those aren't exactly. Radicals tend to create chaos wherever they go, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like I say, it's like big 10-foot poles. Essentially, like to summarize, like the problem also is like this is the modern day where in the past, I can guarantee you Gaza and West Palestine, that wouldn't be an issue because, well, if this was 100 years ago, Israel would have just killed them, to be frank. Like that's how American Indians.
Plays like they've honestly wanted to for a long time.
Yeah, like that's like that's like this sort of issues. Like they can't just eliminate them or even like forcefully migrate them. That's why American Indians like sort of get a lot of hullabaloo, like, oh, we massacred them while one disease did most of the fighting for us by far.
Yeah.
But even after that, like, yeah, like we treated Native Americans bad and all that, but like every single nation was foreign from other people invading the area. Like let me go to England as like again an example. Like England is basically the Anglo-Saxons. Well, that's because the Anglo invaded UK and basically killed the crud out of the Celts, and then the Saxons invaded there and basically sort of partially killed all the Anglos and made it sort of mixed max and also killed more Celts. And even the Celts weren't the original in the UK. Is like there's only a few nations where like the original nationality is somewhat still there. I think it was like Greece and China. Where like the original or semi-original nationality is still somewhat there. Yeah. History is a lot more bloody than we often want to remember.
True that.
Yeah.
I might need time to gather more thoughts on this one. I'm like,
I need like I said, this is a big
12:30 in the morning. So
yeah, which this was originally supposed to be the Christmas discussion episode, but yeah, that's how we're ending.
And this just it just branched out into we don't know what.
Red tape the episode.
Now because
politics on the brain.
Tomorrow,
hopefully we'll get a more Christmassy one in at some point this December.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
See y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.